All right, and now we're live. Welcome everyone to the last session for today. We have the MUSA treasurer here, MUSA treasurer candidate Aurelia and Garvin, as well as we have the treasurer office bearer, Harisha and Namira. So, uh, before we begin, I'd like to brief you guys the itinerary for the session. Okay, so now we're in the introduction, and later on we'll move on to the opening statement by the candidates and a Q&A session from the office bearers. So after that, we'll move on to a Q&A session from the students as well. So for all the audience that's watching now, please feel free to drop any questions that you have throughout the debate session. So it will be asked. Okay. And the debate session will end with a closing statement by the candidates as well. All right. So, yeah, we will move on to the opening statement by the candidates. You have 5 minutes. Okay, the floor is yours, Aurelia and Gavin.
Okay, so hi, my name is Aurelia, and I'm a year two, semester two student in the School of Business majoring in accountancy. I became interested in accountancy when I studied my Monash University foundation year degree and would like to be a certified accountant in the future. I believe that I am a person who enjoys doing tedious and repetitive tasks because I'm someone who does not get easily bored and I love to follow my daily routines. Moreover, it also makes me excited to have an organizational experience, and this has led me to run as a candidate for the MUSA Treasurer position for the year of 2022. As for my personal abilities, I'm determined and hardworking when doing something that I'm passionate about, and being a treasurer is one of them. Moreover, I also knew the importance of time management and applied it in my studies by studying at least 1 unit per day. In addition, I have prior knowledge in becoming a treasurer as I joined MUSA Clubs and Societies Treasurer Subcommittee back in 2020, and I am currently the past leader for Management Accounting 1. I'm currently living in Malaysia, but actually I'm an international student from Indonesia. And beside me is my partner.
Hello, my name is Garvin, and I'm a second year student majoring in mechanical engineering. Same goes for me, I'm also an international student from Indonesia. I've always been interested in numbers since I was young, and I started to develop my interest in physics and math, as it requires me to think further into the basic concept and make sure I understand everything before I start applying my knowledge. As time goes by, I've come to realize the importance of accountancy because even big companies and professional engineering firms need a good accounting team in order for them to work. In terms of tedious and repetitive work, it's always a common thing in my daily life. And in terms of experience, personally, I've been a president for a year and a treasurer for 2 consecutive years in my high school student council. Okay, and then moving on to the manifesto. The first point in our manifesto is fund optimization. This means that we will ensure that each department's budget is being optimized to better serve the student community, while also making sure that there's no misuse of funds. Then the second point in our manifesto is full disclosure of funds. This means that we will be prepare and disclose the annual financial statement in a graphical representation such as charts, graphs, so that everyone can understand it, even from non-financial experts' views. And then the rest of the manifesto will be continued by my partner here, Aurelia.
Okay, so the third point in our manifesto is accelerating funds processing time. This means that we will try our best to constantly check and remind the finance department on disbursement of funds so that it can be used by those in need. Moving on, the fourth point in our manifesto is to consider implementing an accounting system that is user friendly so that we will increase the efficiency of operations. And the last point in our manifesto is to have close liaison with other treasurers meaning that we will manage a group of treasurers from various departments to avoid any arising miscommunications in the future. And that's it for our introduction.
All right, thank you for the opening statement. So now we'll move on to the Q&A session by the office bearers. So yeah, the floor is yours, Harisha and Namira.
Hi, so I'm Namira, the MUSA treasurer right now, and
And I'm Harisha.
yeah, so let us start off by asking a few questions. So, first of all, I'm going to be questioning you guys on the manifesto. So, in your manifesto, you guys mentioned that you will be trying to speed up the fund process, right? So, can you tell me how you will be constantly contacting them without making it feel like you're micromanaging them?
All right. Before we move on, I would like
Okay.
to remind that the candidates are allowed for 1 minute thinking time. So you are yeah. So if you need a thinking time, you can uh move on.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, instead of just keep on reminding them about our fund applications, we actually have another plan, which is to actually try to work with the finance department to change the current process, as the amount of people and procedure required to approve a single request is too much. So most probably we will still review that any possible chances, like what possible way that we can do to increase the efficiency of the processing time, and then make recommendations to those finance department, and then finally once again push those recommendations so that it can be implemented as soon as possible.
Yeah, I do agree that there is currently a lot of people involved and there's a repetition, but even finance, there's some people you just can't remove. And I think that the people are repeated again. There's a reason for that. It's because by the time it goes to finance again, there are some details that are changed. So unless you guys have to, like just for a future tip, you guys have to come up with a way for people to edit them somehow. If you guys want to merge the EMS and skip out the whole SL process again. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Harisha, take it away.
Um, what forms of miscommunication are you specifically targeting to address, and how would you propose addressing these problems?
Okay, so just to clarify, yeah, you're asking me what kind of miscommunication that could happen, is it?
No, what miscommunication are you addressing? Because there are going to be a lot of miscommunications covering different forms of communication lines. So, what are you
Can you
targeting
elaborate
on?
on what type of specific uh, miscommunication that you're asking? Or is it like a general miscommunication?
It's a general one. Like, what would you be addressing? Is it only related to funds, anything finance related? Like, what is the possible, where do you see possible miscommunication lines, and how are you going to address them?
Okay, so most probably if there is some sort of miscommunications, first we will ask them to read to refer back to the handbook, MUSA handbook, and if there's still miscommunications, then perhaps they can ask us directly into our line, and maybe we can hold a meeting together and try to solve it together as a team. Because after all, we are a part of organizations, and it would be better if we can solve it together as a team too. Yes, that would be our response.
So, from what I understand, your first line of response would be for them to refer to the um, MUSA handbook if there is a miscommunication.
Yes, because most probably the kind of miscommunications that I can come up with is maybe the process on how to request the funds or something like that. So it would be actually easier if we ask them to refer first to the MUSA handbook. Yes.
Wouldn't that be under confusion, like lack of clarity, if they are unaware of the processes? If they have to refer to the MUSA
Just
handbook.
like once again, if they cannot understand the rules from the handbook, we can hold a meeting and then we will train them. Okay, so basically we'll actually train them on everything, like the basic thing that they have to do, so that they know the basic knowledge in case of they want to apply for a funds or something. And we will hold a meeting if there's still misunderstanding.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'll remind that please do not speak over each other. Okay. Yeah, you may proceed.
Sorry. So, okay, from what I understand is that if there is a miscommunication, sorry, can I gain clarity on the idea of miscommunications that you see possible happening? Okay, let me give you a scenario. Um, okay, let's say one of the office bearers overlooked a deadline submission for an event proposal and only submitted her budget proposal a week before the event. Say it's a genuine mistake and the office bearer overlooked the submission tab. The event is nearing and the funding is needed urgently. And your superiors are upset that your organization submitted it late. What would you do? That is an example of a miscommunication.
Oh, okay. So actually, we will remind them, like we will try our best to avoid those kind of thing by reminding them to submit the budget proposal as early as possible.
And like, so we will like remind them over and over again, like before the submission date, so they can know the real submission date and not submit it late.
Okay. Then, if that question is answered, I would be going with a similar question, but it's not the same situation. So, for example, one of the office bearers have done a transaction without informing you, and it's already done. It's not in your control anymore. How would you proceed with this? What actions would you take as a treasurer? Since you will be liable to you have two options in here. You have to either tell finance and blame it on someone, or you have to be the treasurer and take responsibility and fix it yourself without making a big mess out of it.
My response to this is that like we plan to implement an internal control so that we will need to sign those applications so that our subcommittees or the other members cannot enter into an agreement without our knowledge. Yeah. So like they need to ask us first before they do anything. And as for our signature, that's my answer.
Oh, I didn't mean like our subcommittee. I meant like an office bearer who wouldn't, like, for example, they have already spent their own money, and it's actually Monash's liability to always cover for anything that has been spent under Monash. So now you're the bridge between them. How would you fix an issue that has, like, it has already occurred and you didn't know it? But by the handbook, you should know it because they're supposed to tell you. This might be an innocent mistake, okay? Maybe the office bearer is new, maybe they just didn't know well. But these are some very complicating situations that will arise. That's why we're just asking you.
Okay, so based on the MUSA handbook, right? If there is that kind of thing happening, like the office bearer who enters into the agreement will be liable and will get terminated, right? Based on the handbook. And like secondly, we will need to communicate this issue to the finance department and to the student life so that it can be solved. And we will investigate, of course, we ourselves will investigate and will think of our best capability how to solve this problem.
All right. Okay. So, Harisha, you can go on with your next question.
Okay. Um, in your manifesto, you said that you would consider implementing a user-friendly accounting system once you get elected. Would you mind highlighting the issues and problems that are evident in the existing system, and how would an accounting system help address them? Also, you mentioned that you will consider implementing it. What are the factors that will affect your decision in implementing, as in the limitations on why it is not a certainty but a consideration?
Okay, so actually, we both believe that there's actually a need to implement a new accounting system because, like I say, currently the number of folders and Excel sheets uh, used by the current organizations is a little bit on a high side because there's a lot of files and folders inside it, and it's actually very tedious to look into every single folder and remember every single file on those folders. So actually, if we are implementing the new user-friendly accounting system, we feel that all the data can be centralized, meaning that we can find the information that we needed quickly without the need to open these numerous folders and Excel sheets. Moreover, an accounting system can actually automatically generate various financial statements such as balance sheet, income statement, trial balance, journal ledgers, and so on, so that it will actually be more efficient as we do not need to create it on our own.
And to add up, your second question is that what are the possible limitations, right, on implementing a new accounting system? So the possible limitations is that um, we need to revise the MUSA handbook because the MUSA handbook doesn't use a new accounting system, right? And of course, the second limitation would be to train all the new users because not all our members are from the accounting department, so they wouldn't know or have no idea on how to use the accounting system. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and like a new accounting system might also be costly to implement because there's usually a monthly or yearly subscription. Yeah, so it's not free compared to using the Google Drive.
Um, But for an accounting system, only the treasurers and the subcommittee would have access to them because you would be preparing the accounts, right? So how are you going to communicate the updates to the office bearers?
Okay, so our plan is to actually, in the beginning of the year, we were planning to train them to use on how to use the new accounting system itself. And maybe after we train them, we are actually planning to update the handbook and make a frequently asked question sheet so that they can refer back to.
But if the accounting system is open for everyone to access, wouldn't that be open to manipulation of figures?
Okay, so our plan is that the new accounting system is only for the treasure department, but then we will maybe like uh, plan a meeting or maybe screenshot the amounts to them so that the other office bearers can also see the accounting system without them editing it.
Mm, okay. But the accounting system is because not everyone would be familiar with how accounting works, and it's a language by its own. And as treasurers, I would advise y'all to maybe create another Excel sheet or a funds flow tracker to update them on the flow of funds, because they are not going to be able to understand the numbers behind everything, and it's going to be too complex for them. So maybe try simplifying, and I would suggest that focus on having a user friendly accounting system to enhance your reporting system, not as a form of communicating with all the office bearers, and to repeatedly take screenshots and share it. That is going to take a lot of time and effort. So but it is a good initiative to, because they have an inbuilt function to prepare your income statements, your balance sheet, so that it helps you with your final year reporting. So yes, Namira, do you want to ask another question?
Yep. Okay, so the final question would be from your manifesto again. So we read about reporting the figures. So how would you guys report these figures, like with the charts and all the visuals? Well, what is the general plan on this?
Okay, so I'll answer that question. So we plan on working together with the publicity team to post about the financial statements that are complex via a short video, like maybe Instagram Reels, or interesting posts so that it catches all the students' attention and it can enhance their understanding on where their actual student fees went. And we also plan to expand the outreach of the post by asking like our other office bearers to repost the information on their own um, so that the students more students will get to see the post now. And also we will then archive our posts and making it into a highlight because Instagram story usually ends for a day, right? After a day. So we will make a highlight and so that other students can also see the post later on if they want to see it.
All right. Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Thank you for the questions from the OBs and the good answer from the candidate. So we'll move on to a Q&A session from the audience. Meanwhile, for the audience, if you have more questions, please feel free to drop it down as well. Okay, so for the questions from Manga, hi, how will you ensure that Musa will be able to get a proper budget for the next year?
Okay, so we will contact and communicate with various departments and then discuss with them on every sort of event that can be done, and then we push them to be as creative as possible. Because once we have collected all the budget proposals, we will review those and make compilations of all the incoming expenses to be presented to the finance department. We will also consider anything that is in the best interest of the students instead of the student life itself. Because after all, we are the organization that is elected by the students.
All right. For Aurela, do you want to add on something?
No, yeah, because we already discussed the answers.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So there's a similar questions as well from Mikey. Um, due to the pandemic, the funds for MUSA is getting cut. So how do you plan to distribute it among all the departments, and what will you prioritize? You may further elaborate on the prioritization.
Okay, so we have thought about this, and so firstly, we will advise each department to only hold an event that has a correlation under their department. So maybe like for business, only do things that are related to business and stuff like that. And we will also research those proposed events to make sure that similar kinds of events won't be done. And if they do have similar types of events, we can ask them to collaborate so that they can do one event only. Furthermore, to make sure that there is a fair judgment on which event is accepted or rejected, we will hold a meeting with all of the other office bearers to help in deciding which event to choose so that it will be more fair.
Okay. Thank you for the question. So for Mikey, if you think you need a follow-up, please feel free to put down a question as well. Okay, we'll go on to the next question from Garan. So, as treasurer, how you will ensure the fund processing progress is smooth among the MUSA body and finance department?
Hello, can you elaborate more on like what do you mean by fund processing progress?
Okay, I think while waiting for the elaboration from Garan, we'll move on to the next question first. So for Garan, feel free to write your clarification more in the comments. Okay, so for our next question, it's from Eunice. Um, just curious on what are the actions both think that could be improved in the Treasurer Department, and what kind of initiative could be introduced to ease the operations within MUSA? Hi candidates, your 1 minute is up. Please proceed on answering the question. Candidates?
Okay, sorry. Can you not hear my voice just now? Sorry. Okay, so actually we have quite a number of initiatives that we intend to do. Uh, First, just as what we said earlier, we are actually planning to implement a better and more efficient bookkeeping system that can account for all of the budget proposals and any transaction that has happened. And the second one, we try to liaise with the finance and student life department about a way to cut the processing time required to both check and make a decision towards fund requests. Because currently the processing time, I'm going to explain to you, is that the first process will take a week just for the student life to do checking on our request. Then the other week is and another week is needed for the finance department to respond to our fund request. It's quite a long time. Hmm. Then third one, we're actually trying to liaise the relationship between MUSA and any possible sponsorship towards a plan that is actually beneficial, that can be beneficial to both the student and the organization bodies inside Monash. Fourth, we will also be working together with both publicity and editor to make sure that the students, especially those outside of MUSA organization, knows better on how the funds are managed and spent into without making the audience bored. Fifth and the last point is that we will implement professionalism and stricter way to control the fund to avoid misuse of funds. In case there is, we will be working together with both the finance department and the relevant authorities to decide and take the necessary actions. And of course, before all that, we will have to investigate who is
Liable.
liable for it. Yes.
Right, okay, thank you for the answer. I hope this answer your question, Eunice. Going back to the question from Garan, uh, you guys um, request about what is meant for a fund processing progress. So, uh, yeah, so it's about the process which you receive funds from the finance department and pass to the MUSA office bearer.
Okay, so thank you for the question. And to uh, maximize the processing time, after we finish reviewing the budget proposals, we will immediately send the budget proposal to the finance department so that it can be processed faster. And after receiving the actual funds from the finance department, we plan to take or send the amount of funds as soon as possible to the MUSA buddies in need. Yeah, so that's it for my point. Will you like to add, Garvin?
No.
All right, okay, thank you for the answer. Um, well, we'll move on to the next question by Kiran as well. So, how treasurers can help MUSA bodies to solve the liquidity issue, the insufficient funding among the MUSA bodies?
Okay, so we actually knew that there is quite a lot of dependency for most organizations toward the funds provided from Monash. And we are also planning to resolve that issue by okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit story because currently MUSA on Australian campus made a new plan such as MUSA membership rewards. Uh, so we're actually uh, planning to implement the same sort of event in where the students can pay a little amount of money to get a lot of membership, to get a lot of benefits, and this has to be liaised with the sponsors. So, for example, uh, a student can pay 10 ringgit, and those 10 ringgit, let's say, it can last for a month, or maybe 2 months, or maybe a year, and then those students who has the membership can actually uh, make use of the benefit provided by the sponsors, such as maybe discounts or something. And we can then proceed to use the funds as our secondary or urgent funds in case there is uh, insufficient funding for the MUSA bodies. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the answer. Okay, next one is from Mikey. So, how transparent do you think you should be to the students regarding MUSA funds? For example, where everything comes from, how every bit is spent on, and also the profit or surplus from mergers.
Okay, so we both believe that we should be transparent to the students regarding the MUSA funds. And also, like as we stated earlier, we actually plan to post through our Instagram story or other social medias about the MUSA funds every 3 months. So, like the post that we will post will break down like where does the funding went into, what is it spent on, and like the explanation for it. Yeah, yeah, think that's it for the answer.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Okay, next one is from Garan. Understand that each department or division will work the best for their unit function. There will be conflicts among treasurers and the office bearer. So what will you do in such situation to ensure the fairness?
Okay, so actually we will require them to give us a more detailed information. Let's say they give us a proposal and they still insist that the event should be held while the funds is, we can say, is limited, and we have to be considerate with the other divisions as well. We will require them to give us a more detailed information and explain it to us. Like, and then if they still insist on trying to implement it and forcing us, we will discuss together with the other departments on whether or not to implement the events, because as we know, we have a lot of other departments that require the funding. There are maybe around 60 on it in the universities. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Um, so I think here's a follow-up question from Garan regarding the liquidity issue question just now. So MUSA is funded by SSAF, which is paid by the student. So can you further elaborate on how your idea can be applicable? Because students will not pay extra for that.
Okay, so I know that MUSA is funded by SSF, but currently the amenities fees is erased. So that's why there is quite a lot of budget cuts for our organizations. And for my membership plan, there's actually, it's not compulsory. In the student is the student can join if they want to. There's no forcing them to do it and to join our program. But it would be nice because actually, with just paying extra money, a little bit of money, you can get a lot of benefits like discounts on maybe your books, on your Starbucks, and anything like that.
All right. Okay. We'll move on to my key question. This question is directed to Louis. Since you do not have university-related experience on handling finance, may I know how confident are you in taking up this position? Since treasurer is not an easy task, as all departments are depending on you to ensure their events run smoothly.
Uh, During high school, I was actually a treasurer for my school student council for 2 consecutive years, and I also undertake an accounting subject, even though I'm a science major during my high school time. So, from an engineering perspective, we are taught from the beginning to be an efficient human being. So far, I can consider myself to be a person that can manage my time efficiently and juggle my time between organization's life and engineering life. And then by running for treasurer position, we do have a plan to implement a more efficient bookkeeping system that can help us do the job as well.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Uh, we have another question from Veron. So, the initiative that you mentioned just now is quite similar to the MUSA card introduced by the MUSA President 2021. So does this mean that you will work on this initiative? And oh, sorry, there's a follow-up question from Garon. How will you work on this in regards to the COVID pandemic situation? Yeah, because not all students is in Malaysia currently.
Okay, so our answer to this is that we will focus on the implementation in Malaysia first because of the COVID pandemic situation. Like, actually, a lot of people already get their vaccinations. So, yeah, I think for the long run, right, the school will be opened and all the students, international students, will come back to Malaysia. And so, in our opinion, it is best to implement this. MUSA rewards in Malaysia only.
All right, thank you for the question. So before we move on to the closing statement, I'd like to ask whether the OBs, do you have any one last question for the candidates? Um, Harisha and Namira, do you have one last question?
Um,
Aisha, you can go on.
Um, okay, sorry, me. Going back to the e-platform, the accounting system, user-friendly accounting system, you need knowledge and expertise to perform proper record keeping and proper workflow. So with someone without hands-on experience, like I understand that the male representative is from the engineering department, School of Engineering. So how would you propose to keep up with the new processes of records keeping?
okay, thank you for the question, Harisha. So actually, like I have prior experience on using the accounting system because I took the accounting information system unit last semester, and like the teacher actually taught us to handle zip books, right? And because I have prior experience to this, of course, I will teach my partner here until he can understand how to do it step by step. Yeah, and I'll make sure he understands it.
Okay, so I'll just want you guys to elaborate a little bit further on the point about reporting. So since you guys want to report it, yes, you guys wanted to make it more interactive, but would you guys want to report the actual figures of each and every event? And do you think there will be any critics for this?
Okay, so actually our plan for it was to release those actual numbers, but not per event, because there will be hundreds of events and there will be a lot of numbers spawn on the Instagram pages, and it's quite a spam, if I can say. So our plan is to actually categorize them into each department and divisions, and plan to update them every 3 months. Because updating it every month would actually make the student confused. Because let's say there is an event that is held on the first month, and there's another one that's related to the first month on the third month. So that will actually be confusing to those students. And if there is any critique in case of, let's say, the numbers are not clear, because they have to also know the situations on how these decisions are made, on how the events are subject, we will actually get them to the Excel file, because on the Excel file we also give them uh, a more clear explanations on why and how those decisions are made, and we will make sure that only us as a treasurer that can edit those files. Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the answers. So, thank you for the OBs as well and the audience for dropping down your questions. So if you do have any questions more, you can visit the official MUSA Instagram page and comment down below the KYC series, and the candidates can answer them. Okay, with this, we will move on to the closing statement for the candidates. Okay, so Aurelia and Gavin, you have 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so in conclusion, as a running candidate for the treasurer position, we will stay true to what we said and write in the manifesto. And we both realize that what type of loads that we have to endure by applying for this position. We say that we are ready for any kind of challenge ahead of us. And if that would be all for tonight's debate and question and answer session, so this will mark our goodbye. Thank you for attending this session and have a great day.
All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So tomorrow will be our last day of the debate. So we'll have functioning bodies and executives as well. So make sure you guys come and watch the debate session. The first debate of tomorrow is for women's officer at 11:30 a.m. Malaysia time. Right. Thank you everyone for watching, and stay safe and take care. Thank you.